Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's great to hang out with you again for another Video Creators Podcast episode. We've got some good stuff for you guys here today. We are very excited to hang out and talk with you about growing your channel after you've hit that 100,000 subscriber mark. And honestly, a lot of these things apply to people who are at the couple million subscriber mark, and sometimes it applies to people who are at the 10,000 subscriber mark. It's just kind of like the next steps. Like, you've experienced some growth, you've got some success on your channel, and now you're like, okay, now what? What are the top things I need to consider in order to continue growing my channel? I've got some momentum and I have a little bit more of an established channel. I'm not really looking for where's the record button on my camera. I'm not really looking for how do I upload a thumbnail, things like that. You've got some momentum. You figured out some things that are actually growing your channel. After that, what are the next level things you should be considering and thinking about when it comes to growing your channel? That's what we want to dive into with you guys here today, is helping you guys who have a little bit more established channels know what are the next steps. And Lennon, Delana, and I, we all have got some ideas and some tactics we want to share with you guys so you can continue to grow and especially avoid the plateau that usually comes after you find what works. It's very common among creators. They figure out what works. They figure out, oh, this is helping me grow. Oh, if I do this, my channel grows faster. And then they get stuck in this rut of doing those things over and over and over again to the point that they don't really work anymore. And then the creators usually have a really difficult time figuring out, what do I do next? Like, how do I stray outside of this? And it gets scary because you haven't done too much else to grow your channel. This is the one thing, this one topic, or this one format, this one style, or whatever. And we want to help you guys before you get to that plateau, know what you should do. So all of that and more, I'm sure, are coming up here today to help you guys with your more established channels grow past 100,000 subscriber mark, million mark, and take and implement the next steps for growing your channel into a successful business. If you guys are here in the chat, we definitely want to hear from you guys. We want to dive into everything that you guys are doing. Not everything, obviously, but into a lot of it, and hear your questions as we go through it. So I know Dahlia and Mary in the chat are trying to figure out who's moderating this. I was told it was Mary on the schedule, but Dahlia thought it was her. So we, who did we decide is doing it? I think Mary was. I'm gonna go with Mary.
I think they're having to arm wrestle over it,
or at least a paper rock scissors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Mary is here, but you should check them both out because they both have cool channels. So Mary is, it's Mary officially. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so Mary has a channel called Maximalist Minibus. If you have a question throughout our stream here that you guys want us to dive into, just tag her in your comment, and she will, in your question, and she will put them in front of us. We have a shared Google Doc that we use, and so whenever you guys have questions at any point through the stream, we want to make sure we don't miss those. So that's what Mary's doing. So if you got questions, tag her, and she will put them in front of us. And also check her out. She's got a really cool channel about just telling stories about her adventures as she's on the road in her minibus, traveling the country. I was going to say the world, but she's not quite there yet, but maybe one day. And you guys will love the stories that she's sharing and the things that she's revealing about her journeys and her travels and living life in a minibus and moderating your comments from a minibus, actually. So at least I assume maybe she's in a coffee shop. But you guys tag her with your questions and throughout any point here, and we'll dive into them here together today. If you're not already familiar with Lennon and Delana, they are YouTube strategists on my team who work with a lot of our clients. They help lead video labs. They do consultations and a lot of other things. So Lennon also runs like our private community, and Delana runs our more long-term client relationship stuff that we do. So good to have both of you guys back. I missed both of you guys last week for Labor Day. I had to do this by myself.
I actually forgot about that.
I did. I've been holding it against you this entire week. You guys have a good Labor Day weekend and a good week. What have you guys been up to?
Yeah, we had our oldest daughter's 7th birthday. So I was an emotional wreck because this is like the moment that I remembered when she was 4. And my wife used to nanny a kid that at the time was 7. And I remember thinking, oh, we got plenty of time. And now it's like she's 7 all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I was thinking about that so much yesterday, but we had an amazing day. And, in such a weird time, we weren't really able to do a party with like her friends or anything, but and just kind of by our choice to be cautious on stuff and respectful to others. But she, at the end of the day, she's like, thank you, Daddy, for giving me the best day ever. I'm like, oh my Lord. Yeah, super sweet. So we had a great day and got to hang out and just do. I think I picked my phone up twice this weekend, which is like a huge win for me. So good weekend for sure.
That's awesome. Cool. Delana, how's your week?
Yeah, I had a surprise visit from family this past week. I had no idea that they were coming in town. And so my older brother was here from Arizona, and my little brother was here who just joined the military the past year, I guess. And so we don't get to see him very often anymore. And so he was in town, and it was really exciting. He got to stay with us, and we got to get the whole family together. And my family is just like, we have so much fun when we all get together. It is just crazy. We all just have big personalities, and it's just a good time. So yeah, I had a very wholesome week in that regard. You know how you just like get to spend good time with your family, and then you're just like, man, I didn't know how much I needed that.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
Are you the coolest person in your family because you work on YouTube for a living?
Career-wise, yeah.
Yeah, not to downplay the military by any means. We're very thankful for those people. But I just said that because that's like I was at it was my son's birthday, and we took him out this past week to he had like all these like free coupons, the different like kid menu meal things that he got for completing the library's summer reading program. And so while we were waiting outside because we were getting out to go for one of his meals, this guy and his wife and his son walked out, and he's like, oh, are you Tim Schmoyer? I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I've been watching your videos on YouTube, and talks about he's working on growing a channel. And he's like, I knew you were in the area somewhere, but I didn't know where. So we talked for a little bit. After they left, my son, this is Toby, he's 5, just turned 5. And he's like, Dad, are you famous on YouTube? Because in his mind, famous on YouTube means like Lamborghinis, like Steven Scherer type of stuff. And I'm like, well, it kind of depends on who you're comparing me to. You know, some people would say that. I don't personally consider it, but I think I am. But and he's like, oh, and I could see like in the, role-playing games, you know, your little XP thing goes up above your head, like when you rank up. I totally just ranked up in my son's book. So whoever, if you are out there listening and I met you at the restaurant, thank you for making me look, my kid thinks I'm cooler now. So
that is awesome.
Now he's just wondering when the Lamborghini is going to show up.
Yeah, probably not anytime, as long as I still have 7 kids. Let's see. We want to introduce you guys to a channel this week for our Creator Spotlight. We are going to introduce you guys to Expedition Overland. Now, these guys, you're going to love their channel when you go check them out. They have several 100,000 subscribers. They've grown this, and they kind of reached to this place where they're like, how do we keep growing? What do we do next? And I'll let them introduce their channel because I don't want to spoil it. It is really, really awesome. I might come back on at the end and rant and rave about it a little bit, but they're doing some amazing things with their content on their channel. But yeah, they grew to a couple 100,000 subscribers, and they were looking for next steps of how do I grow my audience? How do we keep growing this channel? How do we keep building momentum? We had a lot of momentum and it got it to this point, but how do we exponentially grow the momentum going forward? And it's a husband-wife couple. They're here to share with you after one of our consultations together. I think we did a few of them. I think this was the second one we did, where they wanted to share some of the insights that they got from our discussion in terms of how they're going to move their channel forward even having a couple 100,000 subscribers already. So here they are. Tell people about what your channel is all about and what you guys are doing on YouTube.
Yeah, you bet. Go for
So
it.
our channel is Expedition Overland, also known as X Overland, and we shoot a series on traveling the world by expedition vehicle, showing people what it's like to go see the world by living out of your rig. And yeah, that's what we've been doing it now for about 10 years.
The entire America coast, not Washington to California, but we're talking tip of Alaska to the southern end of Chile, right?
Yep, Argentina. Yeah, all the way down.
Sorry, yeah.
And back, yeah.
Man, guys, if you want to see some incredible stories, go check them out. They do a great job with their channel. A couple 100,000 subscribers now. You guys are doing a lot of things really well there. We've met twice now, talk about taking your channel to the next level. What do you think are some of the top things you're taking away from our conversation that you think would also be helpful for other creators to think about as they're growing their channels?
Sure.
Yeah, I think one of the best things for me is to have an outside person come in and look at, you can get so close to your channel that it's hard to get that unbiased opinion with what you're doing because it's your baby. So for me, it was really helpful to have you come in and ask those questions of what is our why, and is it still relevant to when we started 10 years ago? Because you change as a person, your audience changes. So
YouTube has changed.
YouTube has changed dramatically, which is why we contacted you. So that was a big win for me.
Mm-hmm.
How about
for me? It's helped separate the idea of like the type of content that we have been making and how we were making it to what YouTube has become and how we would have to adapt some of our current content to meet that need of the viewer on YouTube. Because right now, a lot of our stuff is better suited for platforms like Amazon. So if we want to thrive on YouTube, we got to change some things to meet that that viewer expectation of what a channel is like on YouTube or should be like on YouTube.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's totally true what you said, Rochelle, which is like, this is like YouTube's our baby. And then I feel like sometimes I'm coming in to be the guy who's telling you your baby's ugly. no mom or parent wants to hear that. So thank you guys for being gracious, first of all. I'm not saying yours is ugly. You guys are doing a lot of things well, like we were saying. You don't get to a couple 100,000 subscribers by accident. So you guys are already doing a lot of things really well. But yeah, just seeing some of the things of like, oh, here's how YouTube's changed over the time. And we're just like, we're looking at it like, if you want to see a mural with your nose pressed against the wall, you're only going to see a little part of it. So you back up and get this bigger perspective and like, oh, okay, we've been doing it this way for a long time. Maybe we should tweak this and do that differently. So
absolutely.
We've talked a lot about those types of things. So if you guys want to check out their channels, go check them out. There's a link down in the show notes of this episode. And seriously, like, put it up on your TV and just watch their entire adventure. You guys actually have a new adventure starting next week. Is that right?
Right.
About the Arctic. You want to pitch us that real quick?
Yeah. So this year, Expedition Overland put out a new series. It's One Truck, One Crew, Infinite Adventures. We've always traveled in convoy, 3 trucks with a big team. Now it's 1 truck, small team going out to cool places. So we have a couple team members who went to the Arctic Circle in March, right in the middle of winter, and shot a 5-part series on that. So that launches tonight.
It looks so cool. I saw the trailer for that on your channel. I'm like, ooh, that seems like an adventure for sure. So if you guys want to check it out, link down below. And thank you guys for letting me have the opportunity to jump into another session with you guys. It's been fun.
You bet.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
I love talking with people like that who are doing like some really big, amazing, cool things, driving literally across continents over land, like no streets, no pavement, just like over dirt and cactus and ice and everything all the way from one end of the continent to the other. And so if you guys want to check them out, there is a link down below, and it really is it's pretty cool. I know one of the things that we talked about with them is their content is really well done and it would do perfect in like Amazon Prime. And so some of the things we talked about with them is like, how do we make this fit the YouTube platform a little bit better? It's a little bit like more of a mobile first platform versus Amazon Prime, which is more of like a TV first lean back experience rather than a lean in mobile first experience, which is what YouTube tends to be. So, but it was really fun to talk with them and dive into like, how do we do that? And if you feel like, hey, Tim, we're getting to that couple 100,000 subscriber mark as well, or past it, and we feel our momentum is plateauing, or we want to make sure that we do what we need to do before it plateaus, I would love to jump into a session with you. You can go to videocreators.com/consulting and you can book a one-on-one 1-hour session with me there. My goal is to come to that meeting with you prepared, having watched your channel with a ton of notes and everything that we need to talk through in order to help you get from where you're at now to that next level you want to be at, which is, you'll tell me what that is when you sign up for your session, and I'll come prepared to talk through how to get you there. So it's really fun. I really enjoy it, getting to meet people like Overlanders, as well as just the other, anyone else here is just like trying to grow a channel, reach more people, spread a message, grow a business around it. So you can go to videocreators.com/consulting and sign up for a session with myself or Len and Delana. They're both on there as well. So if you prefer to talk to them, you won't hurt my feelings. I'll be a little bit sad, but you can talk to them instead. It'll be okay. I'll get over it. But either way, we'd love to work with you and help you work through the roadblocks that you're personally facing on your channel based on the challenges that you face and the roadblocks that you're facing and the things you're trying to get through. So videocreators.com/consulting, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon. All right, guys, in the chat, start asking your questions. We're going to dive into the content here. So tag Maximalist Minibus here. We're about to dive in. Okay. Okay, I'll just assume you said okay. When it comes to growing your YouTube channel, those next steps after 100,000 subscribers, like I said in the beginning, doesn't have to be 100,000. It could be a couple million, could be like tens of thousands. It's just whenever you kind of reach that point where I've been doing this for a few years and I feel like I've either hit my stride or I'm about to lose my stride and things just aren't growing the same way that they used to. What do you do next? Well, that's what we're going to dive into with you guys here. I've got 7 different tactics that I find myself regularly repeating in the consultations that we do with clients and with creators. So I want to kind of go through them with you guys here at a high level. And Len and Delana both have some things that they want to share with you guys as well, based on their experiences in doing consultations with creators and the clients that we work with on YouTube. Number one, the first thing I would say is focus on the business side of your channel. And maybe you're like, I already am, Tim. That's why I'm here. But the business side includes everything from hiring a team, developing a product. It's about putting your marketing systems in place, where the goal here is for you to continue to work on the channel and on the business rather than in the channel and in the business. There's a difference, right? One is like you're putting systems together and you're hiring people and you're managing people so that this thing can continue to grow and serve people better. And that's like what do we mean by the business side? So you're going to need money for that. So that means like you need to have some good products or services or what was it? There's a video I posted last week, I think, which gives you 12 different business ideas that you could do on your channel outside the thing that most creators default to, which is merch, t-shirts, and Patreon, and channel memberships, and affiliates, and sponsorships, and all those things are fine. There's nothing wrong with any of those. And all those are very plausible, solid ways to make money. But we have found that when you're in the business of selling other people's stuff, you don't make nearly as much money as if you're just selling your own stuff. So that's kind of what we encourage people to do. But it's time, if you're at that place, you feel established, and especially you start feeling like you can't keep doing this, because you can't. Like one guy that we worked with, this is a few years ago now, had around 6 million subs, and he was like, Tim, I am tapped out. I am overworked. I am overwhelmed. I feel stressed all the time. I'm the only person who can edit the way I edit. I'm the only person who can shoot the way I shoot. I'm the only personality on the channel, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I just can't grow. I can't scale this. And so he's like, Tim, you were going to help me figure this out, or I'm going to quit YouTube. And thankfully, we were able to figure it out. And it really just comes down to putting good systems in place that create the revenue for you to then hire other people to to start hiring those positions and those roles that allow you to kind of back out of being in the weeds and the details and working on building the overall business again. So Len and Delana, anything come to mind for you guys in terms of advice or suggestions for creators who are trying to do that, or who are like, thinking about how do I turn my channel into a business as like the first step where they need to be focusing on?
I think it's important that you, in this instance, I kind of put down in my notes, just knowing what is important in the moment, because what I'll hear often is, well, I want to continue to grow my channel. I want to continue to grow my channel. But the frustration is then coming from the business side of it. But they don't think about that first. It's like, well, I want to grow more subscribers. But to your point, it's like, maybe if you need to make more money to make this sustainable, the business side is really where you should be focusing, and not the growth side on the subscriber count, And so, because I'll hear this a ton where it's like, well, I want to keep going, but I need to make more money. And so they feel this frustration. So my encouragement to Tim's point here is like, if you're at that stage where the only thing that's going to allow you to keep moving is to be able to make more money, don't be afraid to figure out how to make more money and slow down so you can get ahead. And I think that that's totally okay to do.
Yeah. That's how I kind of made as a lot of you guys know, I told the story before, the way I made kind of the switch from being like, I am grinding my wheels, doing everything, feeling like I'm in the hamster wheel race, to starting to get some traction was, and this is the way I did. It didn't mean it works for everyone, or it's even the right move for everyone. But my wife and I took $3,000 out of our personal savings account, which was like half of it, I think. Is a big move. And I hired my first video editor with an idea in mind, thinking like, if this person frees up these number of hours from me a week, then I will spend that time working on the thing that now today is known as Video Labs, and putting that process and that system together to sell. And so that was what kind of, after I had Video Labs, now I had like a better product I could sell that started making the business more profitable, and allowed me to not only continue to pay an editor, but also allowed me then to start hiring other people, so I could again start working on other parts of the business and continue to grow it. So what I'm not saying is like the main thing you need is an infusion of cash. That would be maybe for a lot of people a very poor way to do it, because it's nothing easier than burning through a pool of cash and still being in the same spot you were before you got the pool of cash, right? So you don't want to do that, but you do need to have a plan. And I felt like I had a pretty solid plan, and I just needed the time freed up to do it, which is why we kind of made a personal investment to kind of get over that hump. But so I think like number one, definitely focusing on growing the business side of your channel becomes more important as an established creator. Were you gonna say something, Delana? Or?
No, I was
so
just
you go like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's something that I see time and time again, especially with the creators that I work with on an ongoing basis, is that the frustration is not usually with, say, the numbers on the YouTube channel or something like that. It's either the business side, in terms of they're not making the money that they wanted to make yet with their YouTube channel, or they are they just feel too stretched thin because they have not yet invested in delegating their tasks of what they don't actually need to be doing to somebody else, and kind of taking a step back and focusing on like, what's the next step here? And so there are even times where I have to push them into doing that. Like, hey, have you considered doing this? I don't think that this is something that you need to be focusing on. I think that we need you more over here, and you're over here kind of trying to hold down the fort. And so, try to be aware of that trap as you're growing and as you're, making moves of how can I make this sustainable in the long run? And that often means delegating and bringing other people up with you, so that you don't pigeonhole yourself, essentially.
Right. Yep. Number 2 is to collaborate with creators. And this is what I see a lot of the top creators doing very regularly is they are constantly cross-promoting each other's audiences. They are appearing in each other's videos. They're hanging out, making content together. Or they're talking about their friends and other people's content in their content. And it's smart because on a few levels, one of the fastest ways to get a new infusion of subscribers on your channel is to have someone else who shares your target audience talk about you, promote you, and transfer their credibility and the trust that they've earned with their audience and transfer that to you and to your channel. And that is one of the quickest, fastest ways to grow. And those people are doing that constantly all the time. Another reason why it's really smart is because algorithmically, when a lot of people are watching your videos and then they start watching the other person's videos, it's more likely that your videos are going to start becoming suggested to each other because YouTube starts seeing that there's a lot of crossover in the audiences on these channels, and people who watch this person then usually go and watch this other person and things. So you'll see a lot more traffic that way as well. So, and third, I just think it's great because you're building a relationship with someone, that these relationships pay off way further down the road than just like, oh, I got a couple new subscribers from that effort I did with that one person. It's like, no, that relationship continues, hopefully, not just past the cross promotion through the collaboration, but through ongoing projects and questions and ideas you want to bounce off of people. And those relationships I have found to be the most valuable part of this. So anything from you guys on that one?
I always say, collaborate. Yeah, prioritize collaborating. If you're trying to grow your YouTube channel, prioritize collaborating within YouTube. But think really big picture about these collaborations. Like at the end of the day, it's about getting your message out there and reaching people. And so are there even podcasters who they have a really good audience for your message or something like that? And just if we're talking brand building, I feel like you just need to think really big picture and just get your message out there, let people know who you are and what you're about. And I know I've found podcasters and then I go to their YouTube channel from them being a guest on somebody else's podcast and stuff like that. And so just really think about how can I get my message as far as possible in anywhere that I can. And so I always encourage creators because I find that there will often be this tension of like, well, I'm not quite sure who I should collaborate with. And it's like, well, okay, let's open up our options then. Who is anybody on any platform, anywhere that would align with your message that we could start making connections with? And then again, like Tim said, you never know where those connections will lead to other people, maybe to other YouTube creators that they know or something like that, and go from there. So don't think too finite about it. Think really big picture.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fit my points into yours, Tim, so we don't.
If it's a square peg in the round hole, I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh no, I'm seamless with transitions. You're about to see.
Oh, well, this has been a good one so far.
So far, so good, right? I totally agree that collaboration is important, which is why, in terms of collaboration, we should open our mind up to make sure that we're also having people around us that push us. So when we build these relationships, as you said, there's something to developing those kind of mastermind groups or those people that we can go to. Like Delana and I are holding each other accountable on some things currently with our own like content and stuff. Even within the team, we're always kind of talking to each other about things that we're working on as like side hustles or whatever. Having that is so valuable and important because that accountability factor and somebody to give you that honest feedback is so difficult. And so even inside of our private community, we're trying to do that more because I just know that that's something that a lot of people want and may not know how to develop those relationships. But, don't be afraid that if it feels right, just ask somebody like, what can I do to help you? How can I be around to offer some feedback or some thoughts?
Yeah. Those relationships are critical for me, not only today, but at every point. There's been people who have been really helpful in helping me move past that next stage, whether it's growing the business side or growing the channel or, it's been really great. So that's very, very, very true. And I think people overlook that because it's the one that feels like it probably takes the most work, and they don't know. They don't know where to start with from there. And I know, like, welcome to Chickenlandia in the chat was like, I feel weird reaching out to people for collabs when they have way more of a following than me. And so I know there's like sometimes an intimidation and like, well, why would they want to work with me? I'm small and they're big. And yeah, well, for you particularly, Dahlia, there's a training inside our growth community, that our growth network, that maybe you've been through, about how to accelerate your channel growth. And that'll go more into that question in terms of like, how do you reach out to larger creators and build that relationship and get to know them, and to the point where they like want to promote you, and like a very step-by-step process. So maybe you've already seen that, but I have found that is definitely yeah, it's very, very important to do. I think for me, it mostly happens around live events, not live streaming events, but like conferences and things. And those have been down lately for the past year. And so it's been even more so that I'm glad I have those now, because I'm still growing in those relationships that were established over the past few years. The downside is I'm not making more of them as quickly as I was before because of that. But yeah, definitely very important. Number 3, we'll go through this one kind of quickly because you guys got some really good questions coming in. I want to make sure we hit up. But number 3 is this principle that we call connect what's known with what's unknown. And with that relates also to smaller creators, but especially works better for these more established creators, which is when you're making a video or planning a strategy, you are relatively unknown. Let's make that assumption. If you're trying to grow your channel, that means you're going after people who've never heard of you before, and you are unknown to them. So you are unknown. What can you do that connects what's unknown, you, to what is known? And it could be like a football team, a sports team. It could be Delana, you want to talk a little bit about what you and Tony did, connecting he was unknown to then TV shows that were known. And that's a principle. Don't take like what Delana is about to say as like, this is exactly the only way it works, but this is one example of the principle.
Yeah, you read my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking of. He was right in, I think he started with us. He had like around close to 300,000 subscribers, I think. But his channel was at a place where he was kind of plateauing. And so we just needed a brand refresh to get him keeping that momentum and getting it rolling again. So one of the things that whenever I went into his channel, he had done some celebrity videos in the past. Like he does holistic plastic surgery, and he had done like analyzing things that celebrities have gotten done in the past, and he was getting a lot of views and subscribers from those. And so I was like, oh, this is the direction that we need to go. Like this is where we need to just like take an inch and run a mile. And so he started doing some reaction videos to what's that show called? Botched. So it was like plastic surgeon reacts to Botched. And those videos took off immediately. It was such a great opportunity because there was nobody else doing content like that. And that's exactly what we were doing. Is he was in this perfect place where his channel was kind of plateauing, but he still had some good engaged followers. And so we decided to connect what was unknown to what is known. So Tony, who is unknown to what is known, Botched, the TV series, and more celebrity content. So all these things that are very well known, and got his name out there even farther. So,
and the result?
He gained over 400,000 subscribers within he had gained, about 400,000 subscribers within like 3.5 months.
Yeah.
It was huge, big.
Yeah. Went from doing like 10 to 20,000 views on video to like 1.4 million. And so, and that wasn't because the 1.4 million people cared about Tony. It's like they knew Botched, and they were intrigued by a plastic surgeon's reaction to it, created tension, got them in there. And then through the process, then they were introduced to Tony and they wanted more, and they ended up subscribing. So that principle of connecting what's known to what's unknown is very Very, very important. Number 4 is, I think around this time in your channel, I think it's important to revisit your target audience and your value proposition and your primal branding elements. I think you've been around for a while. You know those things are. I don't want to belabor them here, but your target audience is your most ideal subscriber. Who are you going after? Your value proposition is, well, what value do you propose to deliver to that person? Like, what's the promise you're making that if you subscribe to my channel, you're getting this value every single video, very consistently. We always deliver. And the primal branding elements are the things that you're including in your content that makes it easy for people to love you, to like your content, to want to watch more. And these are like those more human things. We've talked more about those in previous episodes, so I'm not going to go into them here. But if you haven't heard of primal branding before, I do highly recommend you read a book called Primal Branding by Patrick Hanlon. And he just looks at all the top brands, develop cult-like audiences and followings, and just asks, what did all these brands do in common that made it easy for people to fall in love with them? And those 7 things are like what grows YouTube channel. I mean, other things as well, but in terms of creating the building the know, like, and trust factors, creating trust, building your reputation, getting people to like you and your content over maybe all your competitors, for example. That stuff is just amazing. We've seen it work. Anytime it's implemented, it just does wonders for a channel. So my point here is to revisit the target audience and the value prop and the primal branding, and then dial it in so that your content resonates even more deeply with them. Because sometimes as you start growing, you're like, okay, I have this idea of what it is. And as time passes, it becomes a little bit more general, becomes a little bit more broad. And we're like, let's dial it in so that when that person finds you, they're like, oh my gosh, like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Where have you been my whole life? Like, they're subscribing, they want to watch more. And so we're making it more specific. It doesn't mean we're necessarily getting more narrow. It's more closer to like, everything you've learned over the past year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, you've been growing your channel about who your audience is, everything you've learned about what resonates with them. We're taking all that information and now we're like making it more official that we are delivering on that thing for this person more consistently every single time. And so we're updating our primal branding elements. Maybe the creation story we used to tell is getting old. People like, yeah, I get it. We got to tweak that. If you think about almost any major musician out there, Lennox knows probably more about this than I do, but how many times has Madonna reinvented herself, into like every album, it's like almost a different brand, it's not just her. It's like, I don't know. I'm dating myself here. Nickelback. You guys remember them? But it's doing a face palm. I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank.
I think about Paramore a lot because they've done a lot of reinventing themselves over the years. They've also lost band members, which I think kind of played into them reinventing themselves. And now Hayley Williams has like gone off and she's done a whole solo album. And so that's something that she said she would never do, but hey, she's reinventing herself. So
yeah.
John Mayer is a great example. John Mayer went from like acoustic artist to full band to like blues rock guy to country-ish thing. Now back to this like pop. So yeah.
Coldplay too.
Yeah. And that's not only true with musicians, but it's also true with YouTube creators and television shows. Like season 1's often a little bit different than season 2. And if they don't change it, then it only runs has a really short runtime not runtime, but like lifespan, and it just ends, So really important to revisit those, dial it in so that those new people, when they find you, they're even more, they resonate with your content even more quickly than before. Number 5 is it's kind of along the same lines, but consider a pivot. Thinking about like, what does version 2.0 of my brand or my content look like? And it's very important that you do this before it gets stale. This is a mistake I made on my channel multiple times. I get so wrapped up in like growing the business side and serving people that the channel side then starts to kind of decline or just plateau. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. I should have been like 2 years ago is when I probably should have been doing this stuff I'm doing now. We all do it. It's just, yeah. But ideally, you want to not get just caught in the groove. And when things are growing really well, that's about the time when you need to start experimenting. Well, that's number 6, experiment with new ideas, and don't just get stuck in what's worked in the past. So consider that pivot. What does version 2.0 look like? And then that's point number 6 is start experimenting with those new ideas and trying like, well, let's try it this way. Let's just reformat. Now, what we're not saying is delivering a different value to a different audience. The value that you're providing to this audience should still be the same. We're just talking about how do I deliver that value? What does it look like on screen? What's another method or different format or different way? Like maybe I can focus more on telling the story rather than the teaching, or vice versa. Or maybe I can like do it as like this new series that like case studies or I don't know, making stuff up. But don't get stuck. I've seen too many people who just get stuck, and then once they're stuck, it's really hard to get unstuck. It's a much easier process to keep the momentum going, keeping the brand fresh in front of people as you're growing it. I could give you, so RV Odd Couple, hey guys, they're asking in the chat, can you give examples of 2.0 of what that pivot looks like? Worked with one guy. He I've been looking at his channel for a while, but had like 2.5 million subscribers. And he got there because he established this. He did this one video that he thought would be cool, which was about where he would mail himself in a box to another country with his passport and just see what would happen. And the video went really big, I mean, it's a really intriguing story. People click and want to watch. So he did it again, and then he did that, and then he did that for a while and kept doing it. And then he's like, well, how about I mail myself, or I'll float across a canal into another country with my passport and see what happens. And so it did a whole bunch of these videos. And after a few years of this, he's in a session with me saying, Tim, I don't want to keep doing this. I'm bored, but I can't stop because if I do anything else, no one watches anymore. And now this is my livelihood. I can't afford to do something else. How do I break out of this? Similar conversation with a lot of different creators where they just kind of get stuck in this one thing that worked. And we're like, okay, you first of all need to reestablish what the brand is about. So this isn't about mailing yourself to another country. This is about seeking adventure wherever it can be found. Let's say, like, what's the value that we're trying to provide? And then keep that value in front of people for a while. And then when you do the skydiving video, which is like maybe too hard of a left turn, but let's just go with it for now. You're just like, hey guys, remember this channel is all about seeking adventure wherever it can be found. And now it feels like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I'm here for the adventure, not necessarily the same ship myself in a box every video. So hopefully that makes sense. Like we're talking about like, what's the value, and then what does version 2.0 look like? What we're not necessarily saying is more production, higher video editing, fancier cameras. What we are talking about is like, how do we deliver this in a new and fresh way that maybe like that we haven't done before, that would keep our audience interested? You think about it, even a television series, like a good one will last 7 seasons, which is approximately like 90 some episodes total. So if you've done over 100 videos of the same thing in a row, it might be time to consider a refresh, or at least think of like, what does version 2.0 of this look like? How do I reinvent what this is and what it looks like? And so some examples on YouTube of people who have done this, a great job of this would be like Philip DeFranco. Been doing this for over a decade and keeps reinventing himself before it gets stale to people. He's always experimenting with new channels and different ideas in his shows. You've got Shane Dawson. Like back in the day, he was just doing like talking head videos and then skit videos, and now he's doing these full-blown documentaries, just trying to change things up and keep things going. So anything that
classic PewDiePie too.
Who does? Oh, PewDiePie for sure. Yeah.
PewDiePie. Yeah. He's been like the master of reinvention, I feel.
And updating his primal branding elements every time too. It's like, it's never like the Brofish lasted for a while. The PewDiePie thing lasted for a while. And he's like always coming up with new rituals and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. What number are we on? I kind of lost track. All right. Last one, number 7, is then to improve your storytelling abilities, both verbally and visually, because this is like the skill that we think here at Video Creators is where you really need to be cashing in and developing the skill. It used to be that you could win on YouTube if you just figured out how to get footage off of your camera and onto YouTube, right? There was a day when that would be a win. And then it was like, well, who can do it the most frequently? And then it was like, well, okay, well, who can do it the most and have some cool videography stuff that makes it look half professional? And then we are way past the quantity games, guys. Like the quantity games are way behind us. We're past there's no lack of content now. Now it's who can tell the most engaging story and ultimately make the viewer feel something. And that is a skill that's way harder than learning some fancy video editing hacks and buying an expensive camera that just has shallow depth of field or something. This is about how do we craft content that makes the viewer feel something. And so we highly encourage, in fact, there's a big part of Video Labs now. We spent a few weeks on this. How do we tell stories that are optimized for YouTube, for the platform that really get the viewer engaged and hold their attention, get them to click and watch more? And so improving that ability, but verbally in terms of what you're saying, but also visually in terms of what you're showing on screen, and doing both of those things really well is, I think, really important. Before we dive into questions from you guys, Len and Delana, do you guys have any other points or things that you wanted to add based on your experience with creators? I feel like I just kind of took over there, as usual.
It's okay, Tim. I blew all my good transitions. So.
You dive in the questions?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't
Let's do
like
it.
you hit everything that I had notes on. So
Great minds think like yours, Delana. So we're on the same page.
oh, thanks.
Let's dive into some questions here from you guys who are in the live stream on the chat here. Arda Actriali, I think, asks, for business channels after 500,000 subscriber threshold, what would you suggest or recommend the focus on optimizing videos for search discovery or power playlists, or open to other tips? Well, I think we gave you a whole bunch of other tips, but between those, if you've got 500,000 subs, we have a video coming out about this soon. I would not recommend search to be the place you go. I'm also not sure I would say playlists and search are both important, but when you're at that level, from the clients that we've worked with, we see their traffic from homepage and suggested dominating the search results. Delaney, you just looked into this across all of our client channels. You remember off the top of your head what your data was in terms of?
Yeah, I pulled all of the data from all of our channels that we work with that are over 100,000 subscribers, and to see like where successful, I guess, is, as you would say it, traffic is coming from. And it was, I think search traffic was like a third of just the suggested traffic and a third of the browse traffic as well. And so put the browse and the suggested together, it's like a sixth of where all of their traffic was coming from. And so that's what you want to keep in mind, is every time we see that really, really explosive growth, especially if you're wanting to go from 500,000 to say your next 500,000, I wouldn't recommend optimizing for search, because the overall traffic, the viewership coming from YouTube, majority of it is coming from suggested videos and browse features anyways. So search is not a bad thing to optimize for by any means, but I call search traffic click happy traffic. They just want to like click on, click off, and be done. They just want to come, get what they came for, and then leave. And they're not really usually always looking for a relationship there. Whereas browse and suggested, they're more there for a viewing session. They're there to be entertained. And so they get pulled into the content more. So yeah, I would focus more on that, which has everything to do with, first of all, your titles and thumbnails, as well as how you are presenting I guess, your approach to delivering the information or the story all together within the actual content. And that kind of ties back to what Tim said about storytelling and improving your storytelling skills.
Yeah. Yeah, I click happy. That's a good way to put it. I haven't heard that one before. I like it. There's just, or no, what did you call
Totally
it? Click happy. Is it click happy? Is that what you said?
Yeah, click happy.
Yeah. Born 100 years too late asks, trying to figure out if my niche or passion is worth investing more money and time into, or if I should pivot. How do you guys figure out, what advice would you give to Born 100 Years Too Late and trying to figure out, should I invest more time and money into what I'm doing versus pivot and go to level like version 2.0 of themselves?
Well, I feel like if it's your passion, then it's your passion. I think that kind of goes back to what Lennon said about, reevaluating your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And if you're looking to pivot just to get attention, and then a year or 2 or 5 from now you're not going to be happy with what you're doing, then no, I don't think you should pivot. But if what you're doing within your passion is not garnering the results that you're looking for, then you may have to change your approach to the niche that you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think the way I think about it in terms of like investing more money and that kind of thing, I like to play poker. So the worst bet that you can make is the one where you're coming at it angry, or you're like, it's frustrated. You're like trying to make up for something, or like, you're like almost angry at the situation. In poker, it's called like being on tilt, where you're just like, I'm just going to do this until I start to make my money back. And I think it's the same with our channels or anything else. If you're coming at it from a place of frustration and feeling like you're not hitting where you want to be, I wouldn't just throw money into it without knowing what you're actually trying to do or what your goals are. Because I have had consultations like this recently where they're frustrated and they're saying, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. And our job is not to tell you what to do in terms of like helping you see your vision. We can ask questions to try and coax you there, but it ultimately has to be your thing. And to Delena's point, you have to know really deeply, like, yeah, this feels good and this is what I want to do. It's that same idea of like, I don't think scared money makes money, right? We have to feel good about those kinds of things in terms of investing.
Yeah, you have to know why you're doing what you're doing, because that's where I think things almost get sticky, to Lennon's point, even in consultations that I've had as well, of when a creator is not, they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. There's only so much that we can pull out and only so far that we can go with that. But if you come and you're like, I know why I love this niche and I know why I love YouTube, help me clarify this and make moves on it, then yeah, we could go all day. But you have to, a lot of times, sometimes it comes down to just some soul searching of, why are you actually doing this?
Yeah, it's all good. Welcome to Chickenlandia asks, how much time should be dedicated to actions that get your name out there and build your brand, but don't bring income? Is there a way to quantify exposure versus income? Dahlia, I would say that it depends on what you need. I think that if you are at a spot where you have a little bit of an audience and a following, and you just really need to get the business side of this going in order to keep the channel going, then I would focus on the stuff that brings in income. You don't need to have millions of subscribers or even 100,000 subscribers to create value that people are willing to pay for from you. So if that part is important to you right now, then I would switch to focusing on the business side, like our first point. Sooner than later, or maybe do it now. And then as the income comes in, then you'll maybe hopefully have some time to then like figure out, how do I build the audience? So I don't, no pun intended, the chicken and egg question, it was intended. Let's be honest. I was just waiting to figure out, how am I going to slip that in there? But it does feel like a chicken or egg type of situation, where it's like, which one comes first, the business or the audience? And when should I switch? We got a little bit of an audience. You should be doing both kind of parallel, but I know that's really hard. Just speaking from experience, I don't even do that myself very well. So I would like, when you got a little bit of audience, focus on the business side. And then when the business side starts moving again, then you're like, okay, let me go back to developing the audience and maybe going back and forth. So does that make sense? Or did I just talk in circles? It did. Okay.
No, it made sense to me.
Wow, that makes sense. See one more here. Logan asks, I want to sell courses on my channel. In your experience, do creators typically outsource the creation of course content, or is it something generally more hands-on for the creator? My experience has been it's more hands-on for the creator. I do know some who outsource it, But, and by outsourcing, they pay an agency to come in and film the whole thing, shoot the whole thing, take all the promotional photos, set up all the email sequences and write all the sales copy and develop the pages and everything. Like literally all the creator does is show up, shoot the content, and then they're hands off from there. And usually those types of services take a pretty hefty fee up front. And then there will be a percentage of profit sharing after that. And you'll also need to foot the bill for ad spends as well for them to promote it on Facebook and YouTube and things like that. So it's usually the more established creators who it's worth my time to pay someone else to do this. But for the most part, even the ones who are more established tend to just to do it on their own. So yeah. And then Angry Miko then just asks, how do you price projects for the audience? He says like, there's a huge difference in education price, field prices. And for me, it's been a learning experience over time of just like, oh, people are willing to pay this. Sometimes I price something too low and not enough people signed up because the promise felt too big for what I was saying I could deliver. And then other times I've charged too much and no one bought it. So you'll figure that out over time. And the nice thing, depending on what you're doing, you can always change your prices on things as you find out like this isn't profitable enough. We thought we could deliver it for this amount, but turns out we can't. Then or the profit might be like this price might be too high. We need to figure out how we can charge less for it. So it's always like we just changed prices again like 2 weeks ago. Is that what it was? I think almost across the board on almost everything, not on our client level stuff like what Delana does, but on everything else, like we're like, okay, this thing isn't profitable enough. We need to up the price. Or this thing isn't working. We want to serve people better here, but we need to charge more so we can put more time into it, that type of thing. So yeah. Delana, you have a quote of the day, of the week? Is it quote of the day or quote of the week?
Quote of the week, I guess, since we do this weekly. We've been calling it quote of the day.
It's of the week now.
Yeah, it's of the week. All right. Quote of the week is strive for progress, not perfection.
And what does that mean?
And I feel like this perfectly goes along with what we were saying in terms of, well, in all of this, is whenever you start to feel frustrated in what you're doing on YouTube, or you're starting to feel stuck, or things are just starting to feel stale and stagnant, then just take one step at a time in terms of moving it forward again. Or even if you're just getting started on YouTube, especially if you're just getting started on YouTube, is always look for, did I move this one metric? Maybe this week or this month, I'm just going to focus on improving one metric. And did I move the needle on that? Not did I hit the best version of this every single time, but did I get closer and closer and closer? And that's the best attitude that you can have in YouTube, especially when you're making a pivot or just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I strive for like the 80-20 rule, which is do the 20% that gets 80% of the results. To get the final 20% of the results, you're going to have to do 80% more. It's going to take 80% more effort. And I don't do that for everything, but like building my office, remodeling it, can't wait to do that reveal with you guys. It's definitely been more like the 50-50. I feel like it's been like, wow, that's a big gap. Oh, well, no one will see it. Just cover it up between like the shiplap on the back wall or whatever. So yeah, definitely focus on the thing that keeps moving things forward instead of getting bogged down in things that are just like, that'll just hold you back.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you guys for hanging out, and thank you, Mary, for moderating and getting all these questions in front of us and from the chat. And if you guys, I feel bad because String Player Gamer asked a question super chat. So what's the best way to contact you to inquire more details about your one-on-one coaching service and YouTube course in general? Just reach out to us. String Player, just email us, team@videocreators.com. If you have more questions about that stuff. I mean, a lot of it's answered right on our page there at videocreators.com/consulting or videocreators.com/30 days if you're looking for the course. But if you have other questions beyond that, just email us team@videocreators.com. So, and that goes for anyone. If you have something that you just are interested in, need more information, email us. Stephanie, Catherine, Grace are all helping manage that email inbox. and they do a really good job of that. So if you have questions, you reach out to them, and we will see you guys again next week for another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you guys then. Bye.